Okay, so let's get started. I guess we are 8 minutes into this one. Okay, so I think just wanted to get together, right, in this time, right, which is I think the most relevant for each one of us, right, from our roles. And what I wanted to specifically focus, right, was obviously Shiva had sent the agenda, right, but and we have most of the organization have the BCP plans in place. I don't even know if it should be called a BCP, right? Because this is not business continuity. This is almost survival. So, I have definitely spoken to a lot of people across industry, right? In the last 2-3 weeks, I spoke to, from airlines to hotel folks in HR, GWFM. Spoke to some friends in McKinsey, BCG, Bain, right? Try to take their view, right? So I'll probably get started in terms of what they think, right? At least what is the worldview which I'm getting based on whatever I've heard, right? And I've just taken some notes based on that. What I wanted to do is a little freewheeling discussion in terms of, hey, what is the group thinking about it, right? Obviously, in the realms of confidentiality which we maintain at organization level, but still if there are some practices, right, which are common across industries, right, which we can share. So if that's a good agenda to start with, I didn't want to make it like a BCP call in terms of, because I think the BCP teams are doing what they can do, right, with the limited knowledge, but I think the way the whole thing is evolving is kind of having too many variables which are unknown. So what I was wanting to focus is, hey, what after this, right? Once we get back onto our feet, right? How much would the damage be done, right? And would we have the wherewithal to get up, right? So just some stats based on what I gathered, right? I'm just looking into my other laptop where there were a lot of notes. At least the consultants' view is it's about 8 to 12 weeks before we get back on our feet, right? Starting now. So what they're saying is, hey, the peak or whatever, the nadir of the depression comes sometime in April end, right? And it takes about 4 weeks from there for people to get back on their feet. And June 1st or 2nd week is really when we can start seeing our clients again opening up to projects and all that. From a ramp down and releases standpoint, I think across at least travel, hospitality, if you have customers, you would have seen releases, ramp downs, to the extent of about 30 to 35% as well, right? I was talking to some of the hoteliers, right, Radisson and a couple of them in India, right? They're saying, hey, our occupancy is down from about 85 to 90% to about 30-35%. So this is in Hyderabad. It's the same thing for Bangalore as well. So the view is, I think we have to plan for something like 8 to 12 weeks from now, and it's almost about 3 months of cost which will just eat up without generating any revenue, or the revenues might be down to that extent, right? And there's an interesting stat which these guys were sharing that, hey, if your bench is like let's say X, you should definitely plan for about 2.5 times that, and plan to carry that for about 3 months, unless you have a strategy to deploy it meaningfully. But if you have, like, I don't know, 10,000 people, right, plan for about 25 to 30K who would definitely come in the next 2 to 3 weeks, right? Depending on what kind of projects you have in US, global growth markets, Europe's, continental Europe, etc., right? But rough estimate 2.5 to 3x is what you should see as a swell in your bench, and another, try to carry it for about 8 to 12 weeks. So what do you do with these resources is what you'll have to think through. And I think it's very interesting what the industry is doing, right? So Indigo, obviously, we know there's a pay cut which the top management has taken, but what they have also done is very interesting. They have taken specific team sizes of about 15 to 20 people team, right? And they're categorized into A, B, C, D, all that, right? So based on the criticality of the job, right, which they're performing, A team of 15 to 20 people go on a leave without pay for 2 weeks, right? Then B team comes, about 15, 20 people, they join back. I mean, the ones who've gone on leave, they come back and this one goes. So based on the grade, about 1 to 4 weeks of forced leave without pay is what at least Indigo is trying, right? And I think the top management has obviously taken a 25% cut. A lot of hotels and resorts, at least some of them have resorted to getting a complete cut from an employee standpoint, right? They're still not thinking about leave without pay for a little bit of a time. Speaking to some more folks in services, right, where most of them, I think, are looking at it as more as an opportunity, right, to really look at, hey, can we reskill? Can we use this period of 8 to 12 weeks more as a reskilling time, right? Can we do some investment projects with our customers, right, where we always wanted to do some of those, at least with some of our key marquee clients, can we do it, right? So multiple strategies coming up, and I'll probably take a little stop here, try to hear from you all in terms of what you guys are seeing, right? And how do we, if there are any other strategies or thoughts which the team has in terms of what we are thinking, once we are back on our feet sometime in, let's say, June, how would we make best use of this next 2 months from a TSC perspective for the resources for the organizations we work for? Rajeev, you're on mute, I guess.
Go ahead. I'm on mute?
No, I think it's a lag, sorry. There's a little lag in your...
So I think, Anand, my conversations in the last few days when I've been traveling in India and talking to a few people in different countries, spoke to a few chief operating officer friends of mine in Switzerland who really run some banking sector. Spoke to a few guys in US, right, in different sectors, and also met a few government officials virtually over a few days' time, right? So first, I think, clear view, the risk is at the highest level. The risk has not even started, right? So let's hope and pray that the risk doesn't occur. If it occurs, it's not a discussion on business at all. It's a discussion on different. It's a very different discussion to carry. I think people will be, forget the element of earning. I think it's going to be risky, right? Because India has an ability to shape itself very close to China and Italy, and the grassroots of this country are so unhygienic that it is very sad to think and say that we talk about washing hands with soap and sanitizers, and in places where the grass is so dirty and the epidemic is not going to start in the towns first. It may also in the villages, which may be very uncontrollable for the lack of medical abilities and checks and balances there. Right? So dangerous, right? So we are still on the risk. I think the Prime Minister did a great piece of job by calling a band. That's the only way he had to tell people not to socially close themselves off for some time. And possibly, I'm sure there are some presentations floating around. Some of them are real, some of them are unreal. But at stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and furthermore possibility of doing buns and curfews and 144s are a possibility in this country to control the whole thing out, right? So that's point number 1. Which means that the impact on the businesses in the Indian side is yet not even started. Hope and pray it does not impact us for in the next 1.5 month time. Alternatively, this whole discussion is going to be futile. That's point number 1. Point number 2, of countries which I spoke outside, Switzerland, complete shutdown. The guy who runs the local metro and the train, the CEO of the company, came on TV and said, "I don't want you to board a train." Right? So that's the level of panic, because some of those countries, you have to also be clear that they are legally sensitive, and the after effect of such kind of scenarios can be legal court cases and suits onto a lot of companies and corporates. That because of their negligence, right, a lot of damages can be done. Right? So that was the kind of sentiment which was running there, which when I spoke to some of them was very dangerous to understand. Right? So they're shut down. Right? They're hoping and praying things don't move from one country to another, but that's the second bit. Third bit, closing of borders, is possibly started. Opening of borders may not happen at the same pace, right? In US, they have closed down schools till September. I don't know if you're aware, right? They've closed down schools not till May or June. They have closed down schools till September, right? So September till the September session, they have completely put them on virtual online. They are out of question to even get them on board. That means US is preparing for as good as a shutdown, okay, from as good as till September, right? And all of us know that that's devastating if they really pull it across till September, right? So I don't think I have that rosy picture to talk upon saying things will be okay in 2 months' time. I personally believe that the things will be off for a fairly long time.
Yes.
Sectorial impact on IT, right? Taking a sectorial impact on IT, sector to sector. Right? The sector which is going to be first impacted are customers in travel and hospitality, right? And in my opinion, when I spoke to some people, the impact on the top line for travel and hospitality can fall off as down as there can be an impact of as good as 30% on their revenues, right, on travel and hospitality, right? They're still reeling with their impact on their revenue, and I'm sure they're not going to spend too much money on IT in the days to come. Yeah, they're going to spend money only on the infrastructure side, keeping the lights on, but the digital projects, the projects for the future, are going to take a lot of break in the travel and hospitality industry. Right? Industry which may not see too much amount of impact, right? In my opinion, are technology customers, right? Customers like Microsoft, customers like Cisco, customers like these kind of companies. If you're serving, they may not take too much amount of an impact onto the IT sector. Right? Also, the second sector, which possibly may not take too much amount of impact, or may take a minor impact, would be retail. Right? Obviously, you may have to take retail off for goods which are working on garment industry and like, they will take an impact. But the regular retail, which is the food and the grocery suppliers, if you're serving on that side of the world, they may not take too much amount of the impact at this moment. Right? Like they may invest more in the days to come through on the area, right? Banks and securities, may also not take too much amount of impact onto the IT sector, right? They may give a better view to it on that area. So my personal opinion, travel, transportation off the book, healthcare will see the spend coming in more on the table, right? Possibly, it's opportunity for people to, if you ask them more projects, they're throwing in more projects on the table, right? If you are managing their BCP, if you are managing their DR at this moment of time, I think they're willing to throw in more project and more work to us to execute, largely in the area of infrastructure, largely in the area of platforms, not in the area of new initiatives to be launched, and all that is not in the minds of a lot of people. Right? Indian IT industry may also see a slight amount of advantage this moment of time from 2-3 more fronts. Dollar moving to 75 has already given them a 4% raise or hedge in their value of revenue. I think the pundits may say that possibly the dollar may inch towards 80 also. There may not be a very surprise statement to go into that. So Indian IT industry, people who don't measure in dollars but measure in INR, I think they may get a 5 to 7% hedge for the revenue split going down from that. Point number 2, the variable pays of all the IT industries at the mid management level and senior management has been 15 to 35%. I think people should be expecting not more than 40-50% of the variable payouts in the next financial year. So I think that will automatically get their cost reduction down. So though they may not have to go the Indigo path, that path is already designed in their payroll. Right, that's the second bit which I sense from a cost reduction perspective, right? And and I think still some more room from an IT perspective, will survive, right? I'm sure government is also going to possibly think of putting some more tax benefits to people on different things like to work on. Right? So the mix. So summing it up, don't see it going away in 2 months' time. I think it's going to be more. And post the mayhem, which we believe should not happen, but it's not right to discount that when the world has already lost almost 10,000 people. Nobody expected in Italy to be higher in deaths than China. right? It's almost nearing that number or maybe more than that number. And India remains a worrisome situation. And not only India, some neighboring countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, and all remain a very worrisome area at this moment of time. So, one should not take this lightly by any condition at all. Right? Coming back, whenever it comes to travel and transportation, possibly, and hospitality may take maybe 2 to 3 years to even 4 years to even survive back to what is today's scenario. Banking, security, retail, essential retail, right? It will remain. Even the government's industries and all these industries will get distracted for at least a 3-4 years period. If you guys track a stock market, sometimes stock market is a leading indicator towards a core economy. It goes down also faster and it comes up also faster, right? It's artificially money also pumped into it on the economic perspective. I know trading 5-year low or trading 6-year low today is not a joke. It's definitely not a joke. Some of the sectors which will be furthermore devastated are things like automobile, right? Automobile is going to be heavily devastated industry, right? From an Indian setup perspective, from a global setup perspective, is going to be heavily. They're all supply chain into travel and transportation, right? Okay, Boeings and the Airbuses and all these there's a lot of work to be done. So BFSI, technology companies, retail companies, these will be my bet that there will be more revenue coming on the table slightly, and and these other ones will go it down, and some level of hedge from the dollar, right, will possibly help the Indian IT industry. But the tough days are possibly going to go ahead for all the sectors in the next few days to come. That's my thought. Sorry, Anand, if I pessimistic, then what may people are.
No, I think that was helpful. It's just that it was very gloomy when you said September, right? I was almost thinking, hey, boss, we are in we are in March, so 2 quarters down the drain, right? Yeah.
No, I feel that revenues will go down sharply. Industry should forget terms of hikes. Getting bold and taking a 10-15% cutoff is okay. By the way, the corporates will also get rationalized to a slightly lower level of margin, right? Acceptance to a lower level of margin will also start across the corporate world. So if anybody gets up and says, I'm doing a 25% margin while your customer is making 20% losses, I'm telling you, you say that you will get a discounted bill coming on your table, rate reduction coming on your table immediately. The customer is going to get up and say, I'm making 20% losses. You as a company are making 25% margin. I'm sorry, dear, I think you need to learn to operate at 5 or 7%. So, the new norms of margins may also go down drastically for the corporates, and a lot of corporates may learn to accept a slightly lower margin.
Yeah. I think that's.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry, go ahead, Shiva.
I think, thanks, Rajeev, for a lot of info about a lot of things.
Sorry, Shiva, I could not follow. It was absolutely time machine into an audio visual gigabits that came across. So fantastic. But was that you, Rajeev? You wanted me to go?
Yeah, go ahead, Vineet. I think that's what even Shiva wanted, possibly.
Okay. No, sure. My perspective, and thank you, Anand, for wonderful context and wonderful navigation on crystal ball, Rajeev, around the time scale of September, or I think the macroeconomic perspective linked with money supply, forex, and linking it at a sectorial view was just fantastic. I think I will put it this way. I have a very unique, interesting, by virtue of the role that I have been discharging. I did not have to navigate and talk across various places, but had an opportunity to experience it absolutely real live dimension from the way the whole portfolio sort of emerged. China happens to be my portfolio. Korea happens to be my portfolio. Japan happens to be my portfolio. And I think all the outsourcers, whether they are from USA or from Europe, whether it is Italy, France, Germany, UK, I think all of them kind of do provide their outsourcing into India and Philippines. So whether it was from a service offering standpoint or from service delivery standpoint, I was at a point of inflection to experience. I think Fortune 100 organizations, right from their CEO to down to the frontline agents who have been sort of managing it, and I think it has been momentous occasion, very exhilarating. It has taken its toll. I think when I say it has taken its toll, it is in terms of shaping up mindsets, and what came across was a wonderful opportunity across the borders of how resilient mankind is. And when we were to break down into WFM, it's all about work, it's all about force, it's all about management, and the whole context of work and force has in my last 32 years of experience, of which 22 years were in field of high intense operations research and workforce management, and of course last 4 years has been into intense delighting clients, procuring clients, nurturing clients. I think purely into the sales and account management role. It was a fantastic, unique disposition that I had experienced. It is not yet over. I think my ASEAN nations portfolio have also started getting impacted. We heard Malaysia Prime Minister imposing some of the lockdowns. Indonesia will start from Monday. So it is the commencement. I won't do a crystal ball gazing. I'm not from that standpoint, but my sense is recovery is at least about a year plus away, irrespective of the fact, because each of the industry has and we as mankind have moved into an interdependence era. So it is not about one industry not doing well would get offset with some of the other industry. Implication of one industry going down will have its profound impact across, whether in form of direct employment, indirect employment, sentiments, the whole aspect of consumption, the whole definition of savings, the whole element of capital formation is going to see multitude way of reinvention, rediscovery. I think some of the other definitions that are going to come out, and I have a slightly esoteric view. I'll take parallels from let's say historical context, and the first venture capitalist, if we were to look at it, started emerging from the monarchs, whether it was in prehistoric times or in medieval period, and if we were to link it close to Renaissance, which is where I think shipping industry got its boom. We had Vasco da Gamas of the world and Christopher Columbuses of the world who were funded by monarchs, and they would travel across. They would come back with their own set of riches, which would have been more than. I mean, one of the estimations is that the Spanish and the Portuguese monarchs who had funded respective expeditions were they got a return payback of almost about 20,000 times CAGR in 2 years. I think that is the extent of the boom and that had happened. I'm sorry. Am I audible?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay, sure. So it has happened from 20,000 times CAGR in 2 years is what it was coming across. There was a boom in shipping industry. There was a bust in shipping industry. Reality is people survived even today, 8-9 centuries down the line. And forms of industries do undergo changes and metamorphosis happens. It is the innate nature of human beings or the workforce that does come into play, which defines and shapes the next set of action after having braved an adversity. And I would draw the parallel again, linking it from there. Again, from an industry point of view, there have been various forms of industry. In the Renaissance period, what had happened, we had a boom in printing industry. When the typewriter was formed, printing press came across, publishing industry boomed. There was a bust. People still earned their livelihood out of printing publishing industry. Workforce has undergone their own set of changes. Fundamentals of aggregate planning and supply chain distribution has always remained same. And what comes across after COVID-19's massive event, I mean, in this particular instance, there is a bit of a differentiation that comes into play. So far, businesses were impacted based on the business drivers. Here we are having a scenario. We survived H1N1, we survived SARS, MERS, we survived Ebola, and all across there were epidemics, and localized element there were pandemics, but it was never experienced at a global scale. And as I was sharing when I started, I have been at a unique disposition of seeing it, absolutely experiencing it. I shared it with my team as well. Excuse me. I shared it with my team. Here is a unique opportunity for us to encash it from a lifetime opportunity standpoint. Let's go all out. And I think some of the elements and context that comes into play, never ever had it happened that government in India would have allowed even the scrap to be taken out of STPIs and SE. With intense lobbying, I think I won't take the credit. I cannot take the credit. But I think the intense lobbying that we had been able to undertake with government and through NASSCOM, and of course there were various set of players that helped us. Some of them are, from a panel point of view, are there in this particular panel. So I think what has happened, work at home from an India point of view is going to become a intense reality. Labor laws are going to be will be given changes. Economic and statutory laws from a taxation perspective will undergo changes, and those changes have already started getting experienced in last 8 weeks. When we were preparing ourselves, and as I said, when it had happened at China, we started pursuing it at different set of nations. Thankfully, we had some level of preparedness coming across. In China, we were able to energize work at home in less than 72 hours, specifically for all the digital drives that could come across and people who had their laptops. We were not so fortunate in India, and I think 58,000 people in India we have been able to energize as we speak, close to about 8,000 workstations working from home. And by the end of next week, we are targeting close to about 20K workstations getting energized. Work at home is the path that we are undertaking. Few changes that are also coming across. I mean, the way Philippines the premier actually took the call and did a lockdown right up to April 12th. We were fortunate enough to have had the I won't say we had the foresight. We were proactive. I mean, none of those adjectives I would be saying for themselves. It is not time to do thumb testing and thumb beating, chest beating. I think the perspective was as a human nature, the whole supply chain that kind of rallied together in terms of lobbying or networking or collaborating, whatever term we may want to call, was set across. And as we speak, there is a war room that is still going ahead and declaring ability to deal with pandemic and our ability to deal with meeting the critical expectations of the customers, clients very, very clearly. It does come across. Surprise. While industry is not doing very well now, and I'm talking, let's say, and this is a temporal phenomena, United Airlines, Korean Airlines, Air China, Air Asia, Air New Zealand, Qantas Airways, right? I mean, just to name a few, we are going to see some of the newspaper items where Qantas is going to lay off or has already actually laid off 20,000 of its staff. The volume have increased significantly into the centers, whether it is from a customer experience point of view or even where the clients are actually shaping up next generation set of customer experience and the whole design thinking that the clients are undertaking in their boardrooms is just phenomenal. So I think there is gloom, there is doom, there is absolute prophetic, but in reality, there are boards that are absolutely getting prepared when that pandemic or a non-business environment, which is the point that I was laying out, that we have survived Ebola and we have survived past epidemics. This time, for real, one particular event, one particular trigger is impacting businesses, which is purely non-business event. Possibly, this scale was experienced in the time of Y2K, and I think we have sort of evolved there. There again, it was a business context which brought a boom, which brought a bust. But here the way I'm looking at it is, it has started with a bust, and there is only boom that is going to come across. Question is, does it come across in 12 months or does it come across in 6 months? I think that is anybody's guess. Reality is, the cycle of the growth of COVID will have to be broken by each society, by each community, by each country, by each uh, family, if I can use that word, and that will require a lot of restraint and discipline. And obviously, when it comes to discipline, there are only 7 disciplines which define workforce management, whether it is forecasting, capacity, staffing, scheduling, or in any of those contexts that comes across. So I think there is hope. There is absolutely hope. There is gloom and doom right now, and as I said, possibly this is one of the first event which is triggering and starting shaping up behaviors, which is going to put us into the bust, and from here on the cycle is only going to take us into a boom phase. Lastly, I think as the reality starts getting augmented, and as machines start getting into a deeper learning, the only element that will come across as a context would be, strategies would be moving more humane, and strategies would be moving more conversational. I think that is clearly in my view, and that is purely my view, that I see shift in the boardroom, and I see shift in the society coming across. So I think, yeah, 2020 happens to be a tipping point here in a negative sense, only to move towards the positivity.
Interesting.
I hope I did not put everybody to sleep.
And I think we, at least I
No,
took a lot of
Vineet,
notes. So I think, what I wanted to also probably, I think somebody sharing the screen. If it keeps it in place. I don't know, Shiva, if that's your screen or whose screen is that? So
yeah, I just put it off. Yeah, sorry.
No worries, no worries. I was just wondering, you're trying to add to what Vineet said, right, in terms of data points, right, from the industry. So, but any more perspectives? I don't know, folks on the call. I can see only Satya out there, but anyone else before we start jumping
So
into
this, am I audible? I don't know where my video is there. Yeah, so
your video is not there.
I don't know why I tried whatever. Okay, I mean, yeah. So my 2 cent was in terms of, no, I heard all of you, right? Nice perspective, right from a little bit of optimistic one from Anand, and Rajeev was a little, on the other side. And of course, we had other gentlemen also speaking about, I think we need to also speak about historical context and all. Actually, mine is slightly not a very long-term perspective, or rather, it's more of a request to, pick your brains in terms of specifically from a talent supply chain perspective, right? What challenges we are facing, and one of the things which Anand mentioned was on cross-skilling, right? And also the 2.5 to 3.5x of the bench which is going to be there. Probably my company is slightly not that ahead in terms of the curve of, we are still, we have not completely invoked the BCP part. We are still doing it in parts, right? And ours is, as you may be aware, it's not a very typical IT kind of scenario, right? So a lot of other non-IT related companies are there. So my request to you, all of you who are experienced, is to probably throw some light in terms of how you are going to manage the bench, right? And and Vineet spoke about that humane part, right? So we are not going to talk about bench, exit, and other things at this kind of context, right? So probably that will, if I can get a collective wisdom sort of thing from all of you as to how we are, what we are planning to do that, right? That will be of more. And I know it's a very short term and very practical question I'm asking, but currently that's something which I need to, understand from an industry perspective.
Okay. Should I just lay a few context? I'm sorry, that was you, Sujit?
My name is Sujit.
So sure, Sujit.
So my Xboxes are there, so that's what I can always take the liberty of asking questions.
So, yeah, no, absolutely. Socrates told 2,500, 4,500 years ago, actually, that the person who has questions holds power. So you are a powerful person. I think that is one. The reality. I mean, again, shifting the perspective slightly differently. Have you heard of a person called Vijay Mallya?
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he was absolutely fantastic when it came to customer experience. He has launched multiple brands, and there was brand advocacy, there was customer advocacy, there was experience advocacy, and it was all world class. What he did not have was business commercial acumen. And what happened? Even the retirals or provident fund of employees is completely sort of lost. So when I say humane, I don't mean to say we will take decisions that will lead to let's say a dinosaur getting extinct, right? So I think that is an important context, which is very, very important. Another context is, let's say I go into a financial crisis at home. My family does not disown me, right? So just because there is a financial crisis, come on, you get lost, Vineet. It's not a context there, right? We figure a way out, and we figure a way out of dealing with the adversity. And in that context, if it is important for me to sort of leave the family, I will leave the family in the best interest for the survival of everybody. I think that is an important point which we will have to continuously deal with. I'm not saying we don't deal with it. Third point is there will always be augmentation. I think reskilling was a very important point that Anand started the note with, and leveraging the opportunity of this to kind of reskill, upskill, and be prepared for the bright future ahead. And I think question is, from a business advocacy point of view, is that a cash that would be available and visible for the business to fund? I think is going to be the deciding factor, whatever the organization, whatever the cultural attribute. I think those are three broad contexts that I just sort of laid out. We'll want to hear from others.
Hey, this is Jay. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jay.
Hey,
Yes, Jay.
you know, I think Sujit, one of the things that I would probably mention or add to what Vineet is saying is, from a bench process, right? If you're thinking kind of a more short term, how do I deal with my employees or the problems I have on hand now? I think some of the things you will have to consider as an organization is, how do I have ability to repurpose people? Do I have ability to make them remote? Do I have ability to gain additional clients, right? Again, where you can cross skill and grow the business from home, right? Those are the kind of short term things. If the organization has ability to invest into people, right? You have, I'm sure all the organizations go through top grading, right? So you will want to maintain your top 50% of the talent pool, right? So even as you recover as a business, or, hopefully you don't go through the downturn, but if you do go through the downturn and have to recover, you have a lot of these emanations available, right? The last thing, in my opinion, I think a business should do is, kind of heed to the chaos that's being offered, right? As the businesses, and some businesses will have to do that, right? Because if you don't have enough flexibility and enough liquidity in the business, sometimes you may not have an option to survive. But getting the ability to cross-train your staff, going out, working with your sales team, client partnership teams to see if you can pick up additional business, if you can be nimble enough and move a lot of your staff from work at home type of setup, right? I think a lot of those factors will come into play, and how well you can deal with the chaos that's been dealt, right? And in a lot of our lifetime, this is not something any of us have experienced at a global level, right? It's not that it hasn't happened. It's just something that we are, as a generation or set of generations, are not used to, right? So it's a new learning, kind of a new way to come to realization that how global we are as an economy, as a human race, and how we engage with each other kind of comes in and has a chain reaction to what we decide and how we make our choices. So just wanted to share a couple of my points. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Thanks, Jay and Vineet.
Sujit, this is Rajeev.
Yeah.
To put my perspective to it, though I'm not sitting on a chair where I have to take a decision. I'm happy that I'm not sitting on a chair where I have to take a decision just now. Right? So, point number one, a few months back, people were preparing for growth. Right? Now, first step is they'll not prepare for growth. Right? That itself leads to talent supply chain. That if you are really running behind, saying I'm going to hire 30,000 people and I'm going to hire 50,000 people because I'm going to have a next year growth coming around on the table, I think that conversation, if not already off your boardroom conversation today, will possibly get off in next 10 days time. Right? I think that's point number one, right? And that from an economic perspective, from a country perspective, is not a great sign, because it definitely means that there's a series of set of people who are currently not employed, who possibly could have got employed but may not will get employed now. Right? So there's some issue which is developing in the water. Right? That's point number one. Point number two, work from home, good wording, good stuff. Today a necessity, mandatory stuff for all of us to do it. Right? The ethic, the professionalism, the cultural change behind it, I think we still have to go through with it. Right? I'm not sure that our homes are equipped with it. I'm not sure whether we are equipped to it. Right? I'm not sure that we are equipped to literally give that level of productivity to it. Right? And I think it's a norm which will take its own time. And if people start taking work from home as a holiday or a relaxed environment associated with it, away from their boss, that actually is going to get very affected to their clients, and is going to mean a bad quality service getting landed to the client. Right? So that's going to be a problem. I think it's important that people get educated on how to do it in a proper manner. With it's not an expectation that you will not work, right? So that's a slightly different element that people have to think through. Many organizations would use this time, right or wrong, okay, to do a bit of a reconfiguration of workforce. Right? Some of the talent which was not available, which had extreme chip on their shoulder, extensively expensive, wanting hikes of 100%, 70% and all, right, will go away. That talent now will be available at a moderate level for you, and a genuine level for you. You read the book called Talent is Overrated, and you'll get an idea that many cases, not everybody is a rocket scientist in NASA, but the chip on the shoulder many a times can be very high. And these events can possibly lend itself to some level of modesty in talent across the globe. Many companies may use this as an opportunity to hire the best of the talent, which they never could have afforded, right? It couldn't afford, but now they're available in modest mindsets and modest. Right? That's available for you in terms of working. Right? So from a talent supply perspective, volumes of hires may go down, right? Productivity of an employee working from remote, I think the HR and the businesses may have to do a lot of work to get to that level. Some percentage of the population will not stand up to that productivity, and possibly in a longer run may have a painful state of also let go out of the organization, right? Because they may not scale up to the new way of working around in place, right? Okay. And last but not the least, organizations will use this time to get that quality of talent which was not available to them, right? And will start working on it, right? So carpet bombing off, right? I'm sure if you want to have targeted strikes and trying to look at people from that perspective, finding the right people, and strike not being a wrong word here, headhunting if I can use so, right? I think many organizations step into that area to work around the day. Organizational strategies will also change. Some of them who are in pure services, right, may decide that I'm going to code an IP, I'm going to code a platform, right, for myself, right, so that my future business model is not as linear in some industries as what it is. Some of us know some of our industries, whatever they may say, are extensively linear. Headcount multiplied by billing rate is called revenue for them, and headcount multiplied by cost is called cost for them. You know, a non-linearity of 1 or 2% is left aside. Some of these times may also make them, force them to change their strategies and change their business mixes and change their directions, and that would also mean a search for that talent which change in the business mix in the system. So again, maybe not for next 1 or 2 months. Next 1 or 2 months, people will do crisis management. Right? Once the crisis is over or is about to get over, then they will start looking at saying what to do next. And I think some of these may evolve as an overall perspective. Humane nature of people, I think crisis phase will be high, right? Maybe post-crisis for 3 months will be high, right? And after the crisis phase is over and maybe a post-crisis few months is over, right? The humane nature may slightly go away because the boardroom will be getting beaten down on the top line and bottom line, right? So you may expect the supply chain to change from that. Sorry if I again sounded a bit straight and
no, thanks, sir.
Okay, I think we just have like 5 minutes. Shiva, I don't know if there are more questions which people had, or there is any other perspective, right? Which
we have
Satya.
We have Satya. Satya, could you show your perspective? Satya, yeah, share your perspective, and we have Vishal also.
Satya is muted, I guess. Can't hear you, Satya. I think while Satya comes up, I don't know if Vishal is there.
Yeah, no, I think interesting perspectives and point from the learned guest right here. I think it's an eye-opener for everyone. Good part is we are discussing this during this situation. I don't think so. A lot of organizations or functions or groups are actually discussing this at this point of time. Everyone is right now into firefighting mode. But the interactions, communications we have been having for last 1.5 week, 2 weeks with global partners, and I think to the tune of APAC, because I handle APAC, EMEA, and Americas. APAC is predominantly Philippines and part of India is almost down in last 1 week to a core of 70%. Now, Indian government has been great to at least show an efforts to tackle it at the level, unlike Philippines. So, two perspective which I think is positive for us is one, the shift of.
मेरा और शिवा का नहीं हुआ अभी तक.
Okay, yeah. So the important point is how well India can pick up work at home model. We are not used to this. We have been forced for this. We never tried tested model infrastructure wise, work ethic wise. That's going to be a key change because Philippines is shaky. Philippines is going to get hit by almost 50 to 55% with this catastrophe. Another important part is US is looking, obviously when they start even now, they are looking out for cost as a factor, which essentially is going to get impacted even for LATAM. So for India, if we are able to sail through this with the support Indian government has extended to IT services, for instance, Mumbai being locked down, still IT and IT-enabled services have been given a leeway to be a scheduled staff. These kind of measures plus the shift of global is hopefully a ray of hope for all of us from an Indian IT-enabled services. That's the point I want to add.
Thanks, Vishal. Anand, do you have any question for Vishal?
No, I think it's a good summary. I made at least a couple of pages of note in that long registers, right? So I'll just try to share a quick summary with the group. I don't know if you have a group mail ID, Shiva, which I can, and I'll probably pen down these thoughts and whatever we've gathered, right? It'll be good. But my My only, I think if I can say closing comments, right, and I think who would love to have some last comments from Rajeev, anyone, is it's good we are talking about it now, right, because we'll definitely come out of it, right? Like I think Rajeev also said that hey, it might be September, it might be 4 months, 3 months, whatever, but we will come out, right? And when we come out, how do we come out stronger, right? By making the best use of this time, right, and make all the threats as opportunities, what we should be discussing as a group, right? So I think they're good thoughts, right? I'll circulate some notes. We can keep adding on, right? I'll probably try to share more perspectives. I'll be, meeting some more folks and industry, right? So we can just build on. I don't know if there is a tool where we can keep sharing some stuff. Shiva.
Yes, sure. Anand, we have Blogger in our website, which you have, enabling it. We want to keep that, like sharing this as a kind of like a newsletters, and also like, we are going to have weekly mailer to the members, and also they can, send back their comments and all those things, which we are making it available. And yes, we can make it available. In fact, we're going to summarize all this today's webinar as well. This happened like just 12 hours of notice. So I mean, it's good that we're able to catch up with a good number of people, and we have good number of audience. We have around 11, 12 audience. They've been listening to us. Let me, I think, let me check if Satya, are you there? Will you be able to? Hello, Satya. I think Satya's audio has got some problem. Not able to see him.
No worries. So I think, Shiva, if you have some questions offline, right, from the team,
Okay.
we can circulate all those, right, and we can share some, some more perspective based on those questions, right? I have a couple which I'll probably send out along with my notes. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Super.
So, okay. Great.
So we call it evening then.
Yeah, sure, Anand. Yeah, it's been a great discussion. I think. And I was reading a lot of things, especially the working from home in India, especially. Yeah, not all the functions can happen at the same time. Is this the future of workplace? I mean, going forward, all the organizations should really look at working from home mandatory, or maybe as an optional. I mean, considering these kind of situations, all economy is turning it around. But I was talking to AirAsia.
Shiva, I think you're going back again on the time machine.
Yeah.
So no worries, guys. I think we are almost at the end of the hour. I don't think we can get
The other day,
Are you back?
They have no idea what to take. Okay, fine. I think good to close. Thank you so much, Anand, for your time, and Vineet, Satya, Rajeev, and Vishal, Jay, thank you so much for joining us there.
Thanks, everyone. Maintain a social distance and break the chains as much as possible. Right? Be online, please don't go and meet people physically. That's not right at this moment of time. Break as many chains as much as you can. Wish all of you a very good health, and wish a very good health to your families too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please stay safe, everyone.
Last minute,
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.
Stay safe.
Bye bye.
Satya will make use of your expertise later. Fantastic. So thank you, Shiva. Yeah, I was tempted not to leave, but I think it was productive session. Good exchange of ideas. Timing could not have been better. So great job in setting this up.
Thanks, Vineet. I think it's been great. Thank you so much for all your support. I think we're going to make a report out of this, and Anand is going to send the details. Right.
Fantastic. You would have a recording. Good to see you, Parthoda.
Yeah.
Finally, can
mute him.
Oh yes, finally.
Finally, you heard me?
Yes, finally.
Oh my God. It's a wonderful, wonderful perspective. Awesome. If we can put it together and share it, I think it will help a lot of people in looking at,
Yeah, absolutely.
how to handle. And I must say one thing, that the industry is doing a phenomenal job. I never thought that the way it's being handled would be ever possible.
No, absolutely. I mean, I slept today morning after
Yeah.
almost 55 hours. And
See
this
that.
has been order of the day from almost about 15th of January onwards. So, and it is not just me. It is as an organization, we have a
Yeah.
board war room. They attend so board actually presides in the war room for 1.5 hours from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern time for any decisions that are required to be passed by board. No second questions asked. Our CEO joins the war room at an interval of every 3 hours, and he has been doing that consistently from almost 5th of February when it hit China. So I think and as I shared, I mean from a thick of action point of view, while China was coming under control, Japan erupted. While Japan started coming under control, Korea erupted, and by the time so and my greater fun has to start from Monday onwards. So so Indonesia is coming on lockdown from Monday, and Vietnam is still to follow suit. Thailand is still to follow suit. Singapore still to follow suit. So another 2 weeks, definitely intense action for me.
I was talking to somebody in Pune. Yeah, I was talking to somebody in Pune. They were saying, last almost 20 hours has been real bloodbath for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, but the resilience that we are showing is awesome. I mean, my
absolutely
respect to the entire community.
No,
Awesome.
you have taught us, sir. You are the one who has laid down. It comes from generations above.
Awesome. I mean, I just can't be more grateful to the community. Beautiful.